I have said repeatedly that I did not believe Zach Wilson could play quarterback in the National Football League. I begged him to prove me wrong. Last night, he did. Despite the fumble, he was spectacular. With his career on the line, I believe, he played the game of his life. He gave his team a chance to win, and I believe more than that, he gives them hope going forward that this season is not lost with him playing. He may not be Aaron Rodgers because nobody is, but the kid played great, and you got to give him all the credit in the world with all the scrutiny, pressure, and intensity that was around him.
Yeah, and that's why I said you were wrong last week when you wanted to discard this kid.
I did.
All right, you got to be patient with a guy with this kind of ability. He was the second overall pick for a reason. What reason? He's got great arm talent. The dude can make every single throw. All right. The other thing that he has is athleticism and mobility. That's always important. Bill Walsh used to think this is the second most important thing of playing the position. So to me, that's what he has. Now, he hasn't had the success, and I get that. But you know who had success last night every bit as much as Zach Wilson? Nathaniel Hackett.
Yeah.
He designed a game plan that focused on the strengths of the quarterback. Imagine that. They were able to run the football with some success. Anytime he wanted to throw the ball down the field, he ended up putting more people into protection with play action. He had tight ends blocking, backs blocking, and all that. That allows Zach Wilson a little more time to read and to make throws. The other thing he did, he moved the pocket for him. So to me, hats off to knowing what they have. Moving forward, I told you last week that as the season progresses, this team's going to get better and better, and so is the quarterback.
So two things I want to get, one from each of you two. First, what anyone watching the game would notice is that as soon as Zach Wilson started playing better, the Jet defense looked like a different group. Can you explain that?
Yes, because now you think you have a chance to win. There's a lot of times when you come into the season or you go into a game and you don't necessarily believe you're going to get the support from the other side. You're playing for yourself. You're playing as an independent contractor. But we all start playing this for team. And when you see this defense start to make a play, now Zach Wilson makes a throw. Zach Wilson gets out of the pocket and scrambles. You start to get behind your guy, and you say, we're not going to let him down. We're not going to be the reason that this team loses. We're going to put Zach Wilson in a position to succeed. And that's what this defense started to do. And the locker room and football is about momentum as well. It feels good when I'm walking down to the kickoff and I'm looking at the offense on the bench, and I can say, hey, man, good play. Hey, man, keep it going. Hey, we about to get it right back to you because I know you're going to do something. There's a total different feeling than walking down the field or hearing special teams up because you're kicking a field goal or you're kicking an extra point and it's going to be a kickoff and you're punting on a 3-and-out. This team fed off of Zach Wilson last night. This team was in the game because of Zach Wilson last night.
And then I want you to teach me something as a fan and everybody watching. What was incredibly noticeable last night was Zach Wilson. The ball is snapped. 1, 2, out. The ball was out. And there's always been his problem. When he holds onto it and he looks around, he gets himself in trouble. Is that on him? Is that about the play design? It was 1, 2, and the ball was coming out. Who gets the credit for that?
Both. But it's confidence, conviction, and freedom to make mistakes. It was a good job by Nathaniel Hackett of often designing, hey, we're going to throw the ball to this guy. If you get this coverage, we're throwing the ball to this guy. And that's when Rex kind of says, like, NFL arm talent. It's the ability to make ball placement throws. Accuracy is throwing to your guy. Ball placement is throwing away from the defender. There's that back shoulder. Here's ball placement to bring Garrett Wilson back to the sideline on that very tight window throw. Here's ball placement to say Conklin down the seam with the tight end who's man-to-man coverage, pinning on his back shoulder. And then Jeremy Ruckert in the slot. Again, another back shoulder. That's throwing it away from the defender. Okay? Now, the two-point conversion is everything to me because RC's pointing out, like, defense is playing better. Defense is playing better. We're going to say, down 2 in this game, we're going to put the ball in your hands athletically to go make a play, and he does. So this is a little bit of Nathaniel Hackett taking the handcuffs off, Nathaniel Hackett not babying him, and he did his part as well. Zach Wilson going, I'm cutting it loose. I'm cutting it loose. And if you watched, I always say this, and this is the difference between him and Mac Jones right now. You saw this with Justin Fields yesterday. When that back foot hits the ground, does it look like you're about to go throw a knockout punch? Or do you look like you're about the one to get hit? You know, like when you see Zach last night, like put his back foot in the ground and be like, here it comes. Justin yesterday was like, here it comes. Instead, it's like questioning throws.
Yeah.
When you can make those throws, and there's not a ton of people who can.
It's conviction.
It's conviction.
Right?
I'm going to make a throw you can't defend.
Yeah, I think that's the difference What person in the world, what player in the NFL right now is in a worse position than Zach Wilson, with knowing that nobody in the fan base, no one in the organization wanted you to play. It's not even about thinks you could play. They didn't want you to play. It's the reason everyone was so happy to get Aaron Rodgers. You mentioned it over and over again. Last year, they made Mike White t-shirts.
Yeah.
Mike White, not Aaron Rodgers t-shirt. Mike White, who's not even on the team anymore. And so this kid knows whenever I have to go in the game on the 5th play of the season, when we prepared everything about Aaron Rodgers, nobody wants me. And then when you make a bad play, you hear the boos. They got people in the stands whose teeth are falling out of their mouth with disgust because of the way you play. And you've played bad since the beginning of the season. You're playing the best quarterback in the world, a defense that's playing amazing this year with Chris Jones, and you step up. You go out, you play like there's nothing to lose, and you gain everything in one night. That is huge by Zach.
Don't you think there's been, at least from our perspective, it feels like a 180 in that locker room with him since that Mike White t-shirt situation? Like, if you watch what's happened on the sidelines with Garrett Wilson and Lazard's leadership, how he's handled himself post-game press conference-wise.
And I will say this, Lazard and Randall Cobb, who were brought there for Aaron Rodgers, are the 2 biggest pieces of Zach Wilson's confidence.
But perhaps for the first time this year, the quarterback was not the issue. It was his first 300-yard game ever.
It hasn't been the issue.
However, in the 4th quarter, obviously, there were the issues. And very quickly there, just on that last play, the last pick that ends the game, you're going to make the point that's not necessarily on the quarterback.
It's between the communication of quarterback and tight end. It's man coverage. You see Kmet pushes up, and it looks at the top. He could run a little bit of an option route. Justin throws it like inside. Kmet's going to pull away outside. Watch him after the interception happens. He goes hands down, palms up, like, I was doing one thing, you're doing another thing. See how he stops? A great angle right there. See how he stops? Justin's expecting him just to get an inch or two, a yard or two inside. My last thing is this. You got to go attack the football. Like, the guy sees the ball come out of the quarterback's hands, so it's not just, oh my gosh, the quarterback stinks. There's a lot that goes into that play.
The thing that hurts too, though, Justin played so well for 3 quarters. And then you look at that 4th quarter, there's the fumble, there's the intentional grounding that sets them back, and then obviously the last interception. There are things to take from this game and say, okay, we watched Justin Fields take a step up. We watched him sort of make some progress. How do we build on that if we're the offensive coordinator, Luke Getsy?
For what it's, and I agree with that. For what it's worth, the fumble, he's trying to get rid of the ball. The intentional grounding, I mean, I could see an argument that it shouldn't have been called. They called it one way or another. A lot of things seem to snowball against them. How about the other side? I mean, the Broncos, who were just humiliated a week ago, 70-20. They give up all these touchdowns to them. I thought that game was going to be another rout, and they come back and win. That felt like a meaningful comeback for them.
Oh, there's no question about it. And quite honestly, if you're Sean Payton, all right, and I know he won a Super Bowl, that's probably, I mean, you feel like a damn Super Bowl win right there because you had to have it. But this defense is historically bad.
Historically.
They also played the Bears, who might be worse on defense. So, and I'll say this about Sean Payton. That offense has not been the problem this year.
No.
All right, so he's got, remember we said, well, how's the marriage with Russell Wilson and Sean Payton? That looks like it's going to be good.
Broncos.
But the Broncos, but God, we got to be able to play a little bit of defense. But the Bears, how about Greeny? For 14, they've lost 14 games in a row.
Yes.
They've given up over 25 points in all 14 of them.
I know. With a defensive-minded coach. Where the head coach is a defensive
supposed to be.
Chicago and Justin are in a fascinating situation. The question for me right now is, are teams going to call and ask if they can trade for him? Because he's in his 3rd year. We all know that's a huge year for determining what are you going to do with the guy's contract. They're 0-4. The difference between Justin yesterday and the guy that many people saw the first 3 weeks is it's not that different than Zach Wilson. Watch his back foot. This is what I'm talking about. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now see the urgency, the conviction with the throw. This ball gets driven 40 yards on a freaking rope downfield to DJ Moore. Okay, so like you saw that. Second of all, the athleticism. They finally moved the pocket. You get a ball fake to the right. Now he's athletic enough. See it. Look at this throw. Like, look at that throw to DJ Moore on the crosser going to his left and flipping his hips. And then now you get him to his right and he becomes a weapon. Defense, I'm going to push the line of scrimmage. If you stay back, I'll run. If you come to me, now I free up my tight end. The question I have is, one, why haven't you done this all year, Chicago? And two, now that you're 0-4 and it feels in many ways like a lost season, it's hard to make a determination of what you're going to do with Justin Fields, what teams come calling. Because teams absolutely should. If you watched yesterday and you got an offensive-minded play caller that sits there and goes, I could do something with that, they absolutely should be calling.
I'll put names to it. I'll see yours and I'll raise it as much as you want. The Bears are going to have maybe the first 2 picks in the draft next year.
Right.
They're going to take Caleb Williams. They're going to move on from Justin Fields. If Justin Fields was the quarterback of the Atlanta Falcons right this minute, they would be 1,000 times better off.
Absolutely. And this is, and I don't want to pile on Desmond Ridder, who's trying to find his footing as a starting quarterback in this league, but he's not the guy on that team. When you look at Drake London's frustration after being pushed out of the end zone by Trey Herndon, you can see that he wants to rock.
Right.
Desmond Ridder can't figure out a way to get it to him. When Matt Hollins is behind the defense and you have an opportunity to push it down the field and you throw it short and Darius Williams drops a pick, you can see his frustration. Yes, they drafted Bijan Robinson number 8 or number 7 overall this year. The years before, you drafted Drake London and you drafted Kyle Pitts.
Yes.
These guys are supposed to be stars. These guys are supposed to be able to catch 50-50 ball. I listened to Dan yesterday say, listen, they're not going to create the separation, but a quarterback has to throw them open. They don't have that quarterback. You want to look at a quarterback that can drive a football? It's the guy that wears number 1 for the Chicago Bears.
How would you like to see him playing with Bijan Robinson?
It would be
God.
the amount of things that Arthur Smith could do with those 2 athletic
They'd become
players
a
in the
problem.
backfield. They'd become a problem.
It's another mustache.
If they could pull this thing off,
Yeah.
all right, and they would have done it yesterday. But the Bears can't be that stupid. You got to ride this thing out. If you don't, let's say they don't get the first pick in the draft.
Yeah.
Then you're not going to trade this guy.
If you trade away Justin Fields, you'll get the first pick.
Well, no, absolutely.
If you keep
Then
playing
you're committed
defense
to
like
it.
this, and let's think of the last 2 things Dak Prescott saw on the field with the San Francisco 49ers the last 2 years. You didn't get an opportunity after a quarterback draw to spike the football and get a field goal on your home turf. The last play, you saw your best friend Ezekiel Elliott playing flag football center and getting driven into the backfield.
Yeah.
That's the 2 things you remember about playing the San Francisco 49ers. So he should be pissed.
Yeah.
And he should be back there. And he should be back there watching that film because much of what the San Francisco 49ers do is the same. Let's go watch where I made mistakes. Let's have that fresh in my mind so I understand I have to be better. Dak Prescott still hasn't played a game this year. As good as he was yesterday, he still hasn't played a game this year that erases the memory of what we've seen in the last 2 playoffs. You want me to tell you what will? You want me to tell you how we'll forget about what happened against Arizona? If you go to San Francisco against Steve Wilkes' defense and play good football and be the reason that the Dallas Cowboys win.
No, that's absolutely right. The only game this year that their defense didn't thoroughly dominate, they lost.
Yep.
Right.
So, I mean, it is fair to ask the questions. Now, again, you can ask Dak, what is the key to beating San Francisco? Asking him what the emotion was in the locker room the last time they were in that building is an interesting way to put it, and I understand him being aggravated by it. How about it, Cowboys and Niners this week?
Oh, my gosh. Look, I'm not going to be shocked if Dallas wins this game. I'm not, because that defense is that good, and I think Dak will step up and play much better, okay? But if I'm a betting man and had to, for my life, I'm taking the Niners. I am taking the Niners.
The reason this offense and Dak hasn't erased the memory of last year is because they played from a level of comfort this year. They've had the lead so much. No quarterback has played with the lead more this year than Dak and has played better in that situation. No quarterback has played worse when losing than Dak Prescott this year, and it's mainly in that Arizona game. I don't have concerns about Dallas. I think the way their defense played yesterday post-Trayvon was a really big deal. The 2 things I've talked about. Number 1, throw the ball to CeeDee Lamb in the red zone. You did that, you scored. Stop with the play action down in the red zone, guys. You stink at it. Every time Dak Prescott runs play action in the red zone, he's getting tackled or mauled to the ground. Spread it out a little bit and make sure that he's a ball distributor. I'm not concerned, but their offense so far, because they've been in the lead, has been blah. It's just been blah.
That will be the game of the weekend next weekend for sure. When you have a quarterback who sort of hangs his hat on being heady, and he makes the kinds of mistakes that Mac Jones made yesterday, mental stuff, you've got yourself a real problem on your hands. So, Dan, I know you and RC were looking at a tape here, and you were going to show exactly what it is that Mac Jones is struggling with.
Zero confidence and belief in his offensive line. I say it all the time. Quarterbacks will tell you what they think or what they're seeing by looking at their feet. We just talked about Zach Wilson and Justin Fields, right? Look at what Mac Jones is doing when he gets into the pocket. It's this fading away. Now, pay attention. He gets to the top of his drop. Instead of going up, He's constantly going backwards, three hops. That leads to this inaccuracy. Watch him again, top of his drop. Hop, hop, hop backwards, and even gets away with it there because Gesicki makes a nice catch. Now we go to 3rd and 6, shallow cross. Look at it again, top, hop, hop, backwards. See all the different movements that are going on?
Yeah.
You don't see Mac consistently getting to his drop and being like, okay, and kind of in that throwing platform, you see fading backwards, even though there's no rush, and then the bouncing around. That will lead to inaccuracy, and that's the biggest issue with Mac right now is he has no trust or confidence in the offensive line, and therefore his feet are all over the place. He's accurate enough to get away from it at times, but not consistently right now.
We always talk about a quarterback's arm.
Yeah.
But one of the things I've learned from being around all you guys, and Rex, I know you pick up, is that strength, that power comes from the legs.
It does.
No doubt.
And that's what he does not have right now, and leading to your nickname for him.
Yeah, I mean, I've always called him Pea Shooter Jones. And look, how do you improve? And
Why that
because
sound like an old school pimp, though?
you know what I'm saying? But I think it's appropriate because he can't drive the football outside of numbers, doesn't drive it vertically. And because of that strength.
You can't
Look,
drive the
Tom Brady-
football with feet like that, though.
No, but I'm saying this. He doesn't have that strength in the lower body. And where Tom Brady, RC, you talk about it, we talk about it all the time. He improved his arm strength as he went on. Not by pushing weights upper body-wise, but by getting stronger in your lower body. If this kid's ever going to have the arm talent to play in the NFL, he's got to develop his lower body.
Well, that's the point, is that guys like Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, they can do this stuff you're talking about. Every now and again, make these unbelievable throws when their footwork isn't right. Because they have that talent, he doesn't have that gear. He has to have it in the right place.
Absolutely true, but your statement of every now and then is accurate. He's doing it too much.
Right.
Like, that's become more of the norm rather than the rarity for Mac Jones's game. And it's hard as a quarterback, if I'm being honest, because he doesn't have a good offensive line. But his job, he's got to get his feet dialed in because that's the necessity in his game.
Yeah, but 2 wrongs don't make a right. Right, yeah, I understand that your offensive line isn't playing well, and it might make you a little skittish in the pocket, but it can't. It's what you're paid to do. You're paid to stand in there and make the throws. You're paid to understand how can I be the best quarterback I can possibly be and know my limitations. I always said this. I wanted to know where I was weakest so I can avoid putting myself in those positions. That's what Mac Jones has to do. But also you have to think Bill O'Brien. You need to work with him. If the pocket is something that is giving him trouble, let's get to half rolls. Let's put him in position where he can step into throws because he doesn't have what it takes to throw from the pocket right now, especially with his skill players not giving him opportunities for space.
Yeah.
Nobody creates space. You look at all of those throws, and even though he's throwing off of the back foot, there's also a defender right there every single time.
Contrast him with Tua Tagovailoa, though. I don't think Tua's got this absolute cannon for an arm, but if you watch Tua and the way he throws, that back foot hits the ground and it's getting driven. And so there is that capability. Right now, we'll look at Mac's feet. They bounce, and he'll get away with it, but he's not going to in the course of an NFL, especially against a good defense.
Yeah.